guys, it's Rachel here. Today I'm doing my April TBR video, and this TBR is going to be a little bit different because I'm actually planning on picking a couple of books out of my TBR jar on camera, so I don't know yet what these books will be, but I thought it would be fun for me to pick out just a couple of books that even I don't know that I'm going to be reading this month. And these books are also not in the thumbnail, so there are a couple of little surprises in this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the books that I know for sure I'm going to be reading in April. The first book I'm going to talk about is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I actually already started reading this on audiobook. I am just about 50% of the way through. And in case you're wondering, this beautiful edition is a Barnes & Noble collector's edition. I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I love this beautiful peachy pink color, and there are gold edges. And what's really great about this bind up in particular is that not only does this include Little Women, but it includes the two sequels, that being Little Men and Jo's Boys. I have never read either of those two books, so now that I have those two books in this bind up, I'm looking forward to checking them out in the near future. For those of you that may not know, Little Women of course has been adapted into many movie adaptations, but it was also turned into a musical and an opera, and I have had the incredible privilege of being involved in the opera twice at this point. The first time that I was in this opera, I actually sang the role of Marmee, who is the mother of the four main girls, and I just realized how much I absolutely adore the opera. The music is gorgeous. I really enjoy the changes that the composer made to the story in order to make it a really good stage experience and a really good opera in general. And so shortly after my first experience with this opera, I found out that there was a company in Atlanta doing the opera, and I realized that I really wanted to sing the role of Jo. Now in the book, Jo isn't really the central main character. I feel like the book does a really good job of focusing on all four of the main girls, being Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy. But in both the musical and the opera, Jo is definitely the main character. It centers around Jo's story, whereas everyone else is a supporting role. And so I realized that Jo was a dream role of mine. It fits my voice perfectly. To kind of explain a little bit about my voice, I'm what they call a mezzo-soprano, and so that is a lower voice type than a soprano. And so Jo is written for a lower mezzo-soprano, and so that just fits perfectly in my voice. And so yeah, this company in Atlanta was doing Little Women, and I flew in the day of the audition and also flew back home the exact same day. Did that audition and got the role, and it was such an amazing experience for me to explore Jo's story. I really realized just how much I relate to Jo as a character and as a person. And so all of that to say that I recently was offered to sing the role of Jo again with a completely different company. And so I'm going to be singing the role this coming summer. And so I knew that I wanted to reread this book. I read Little Women for the first time actually in middle school, but I didn't finish it. I think I read the first half of the book in middle school and then I just put it down. I think back then I was just kind of bored by it, honestly. But then I picked it up last year when I was going to be singing Jo for the first time, and unfortunately I didn't finish it that time either. I think just other things in my life got in the way, so yeah, that just didn't happen. So I knew this time around I really wanted to finish the book. The book gives so much insight into these characters and into their stories that you don't see in the opera. So what I decided to do this time around is actually listen to the audiobook, which has been a phenomenal way to take in this story. I think audiobooks are a really great way to take in classics in general, because you get to just sit back and listen to the story being told to you as opposed to reading it physically and trying to decipher maybe some of the old vernacular, things like that. So I'm already 50% the way through. I am loving this experience listening to this on my daily commute. So I think I'm gonna finish this probably within the next week or so. The next book I plan to read in April is Ronan Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the third and final book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, or the Grisha trilogy. I have talked in depth about both Shadow and Bone and Siege and Storm, which are the first two books in this trilogy. So if you want to know my thoughts on those books, I'll include links to those wrap-ups down below. Overall, I really enjoyed Shadow and Bone, the first book. I gave that one 4 stars. Siege and Storm, unfortunately, was not as good in my opinion. I think I gave that book a 3 or 3.5 stars. I've heard that this trilogy just kind of goes downhill after Shadow and Bone. So I'm really looking forward to the last book, but I'm also kind of scared that it's going to be terrible and I'm not going to like it. The next book I plan on reading this month is Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. I absolutely love this cover. If you guys are curious, this is the UK paperback edition. I got this from Book Depository for a pretty good price, so I will definitely leave a link to that down below if you guys are interested. But I don't know a lot about this book. I just know that a lot of people love Jen Bennett's YA contemporaries. I know this centers around best friends turned worst enemies and that they end up stranded in the woods together. So yeah, I'm just really interested to get into this author's works, and I think this is going to be a really nice, light YA contemporary. And the next book I plan on reading is I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. This is going to be my first Alice Oseman book. I know I haven't read Radio Silence yet because it hasn't gotten picked out of my TBR jar yet, but I know that this book centers around like a boy band, so that's cool. And there's 2 main characters or 3 main characters. I think there's basically like a girl who's obsessed with this boy band, and then the other main character is the front man of that boy band, and so I assume this is about how they fall in love with each other. I think again this is going to be a really great YA contemporary romance, so I'm just really excited to get into Alice Oseman's works. And the last book that I definitely plan on reading this month is Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. This is technically the 3rd book in the Throne of Glass series, or if you count the prequel novellas, I guess this would be the 4th installment. So for those of you who do not know, I have been vlogging my experience reading this entire series, so there is a vlog dedicated to Throne of Glass and a vlog dedicated to Crown of Midnight that I will link down below if you guys are interested to hear all of my thoughts on those books. So I will definitely be continuing that sort of tradition with Heir of Fire. I will be doing a vlog dedicated to this book. I'm very interested to see where the story goes from here, because at the end of Crown of Midnight I had a very clear idea as to where the story was going to go, and so I'm very interested to see how this world expands as the series goes along. So yeah, I'm just really excited to continue with this series. And then I do have 2 more books to talk about that came out of my TBR jar, but I'm not sure if I'm going to read them this month or anytime really soon, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. So the first book that got picked out of my TBR jar is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a series that has been hyped up so much on BookTube, and I totally understand why. I've read a couple of Neil Shusterman's works and I really loved them. I know that this is a dystopian, kind of reminds me of The Giver, but it has to do with this society that has somehow conquered death. And so there are these beings called Scythes who kind of decide who dies, and yeah, it kind of goes on from there. But the reason why I'm hesitant to read this now is because the 3rd book, which I believe is called The Toll, we haven't gotten really any information as far as a release date or a cover reveal or anything like that. So I'm hesitant to read this book, and then the 2nd book in this series is called Thunderhead, when I don't have the 3rd installment to read. I'm just the kind of person that I want to have the completed series before I start reading the books. At least for the most part, I do make some exceptions with books that I just like have to read at that moment. So until we get any sort of cover reveal or release date or anything like that, I think I'm gonna hold off on reading this, but I do have a feeling that when I do read this, I am going to love it. And then the other book that came out of my TBR jar is Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. This is a series that I've wanted to read for a really long time. I've actually never read this series before. But I heard that it's just a really good trashy YA vampire series, so I'm here for that. The reason why I'm hesitant to read this now is because I feel like this is a series that I'm gonna want to read in the fall, sort of around Halloween time, because it centers around vampires. But if you guys think that I should just read this series now, definitely let me know in the comments below. But yeah, so I'm definitely thinking of saving this until the fall. So because I don't think I'm going to read these 2 books this month, I am going to pick 2 completely different books out of my TBR jar. So without further ado, let's just pick a book. I'm opening it without looking at it, and I've already read that book. I picked out Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I actually read this recently, so I'm gonna pick again. And hopefully this time I pick a book that I haven't read. Up on the bottom now, way here. Up on the bottom. All right, got a purple one this time. I don't color code my post-its, by the way, as far as like my TBR jar goes. I kind of go by like the vibe of the book as to what color post-it it will get. All right, I'm gonna open this. So this is Addicted to You by, I think it's just a dual team of authors. I'll put the cover up here. This is a book that I have on my Kindle that was highly recommended by a couple of booktubers. It's just a really good smutty romance, so I may have to read this month. My reading habits with my Kindle are very different with the books that I physically own, so I think I might pick again because my Kindle books I don't read necessarily in like the order that I pick them out of my TBR jar. Usually my Kindle books are ARCs that I get from NetGalley, but I do have a few books that I bought off of Amazon Kindle. So yeah, I think I'm gonna pick yet again. Why is this a fail? Okay, maybe third time's the charm. Let's pick again. Not looking while I'm opening this. Ooh, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Great. Okay, I do not own a physical copy of this book that I really like. I'll just put a cover up here. I know that this is a classic, obviously, that so many people love. I know little to nothing about this story, actually, so I'm very excited about reading this. I think I might check it out on audiobook, actually. So yeah, I'll definitely add this to my TBR for the month. And we're gonna pick one more time. This will be a book that I actually have a physical copy of that I can show you. What I Lost. Okay, I physically own this book. Okay, let me get my copy out. Okay, so this is What I Lost. This is by Alexandra Ballard. I don't really know much about this book. Oh, okay, yeah. I kind of do. This is about a girl, her name is Elizabeth. She has an eating disorder, and so she ends up going to this place called Wallingfield, which is a treatment center for girls like her, girls who have eating disorders. This is a book that was recommended by Emma Books here on BookTube. So yeah, I'm excited to check this book out. Yet another YA book for the TBR. All right, so I'm definitely going to be reading To Kill a Mockingbird and What I Lost this month as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of went off script as far as my TBR videos go. I hope you enjoyed that TBR jar craziness. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you would consider subscribing, and don't forget to push that notification bell button below so that you will be notified every time I upload. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!